Hello, everybody. It's lovely to be with you all today, and especially with Your Excellency. I'm Helena MacLeod, and I'm Deputy Director General of the Global Green Growth Institute, and we're very privileged to be close partners with the UAE government in terms of the green growth transition. And as you've seen this morning, it's inspiring, significant, and absolutely transformational what has been presented. But it's also absolutely leading in the world, and so much that the world can learn from. So we're here today to talk about the second edition of the UAE Green Business Toolkit. I know that the first edition was launched in 2018 with the intent to inspire all types of companies nationwide to take the first step to becoming more eco-friendly and socially responsible by creating awareness. Can you tell us about the UAE Green Business Toolkit number 2?
Hello, everybody. So, just before sitting here, some of you may have seen that the UAE has now launched the Net Zero by 2050 strategic pathway. So, with this pathway, we have, of course, all sectors on board, private sector, non-state actors, everyone has a role to play. And a big question that was coming our way was, okay, I'm a CEO, I want to do this, how do I do it? So what do we need to do? We need to ensure we're enabling the private sector to do this. So we thought the best way to do this is provide them with tools. And so today we're launching the second edition of our Green Business Toolkit. And it's really all about being a handbook, being a guidance, and this is especially targeted for SMEs as well, to enable them to kind of use this guidance to green their operations, basically. And also to understand that greening your operations brings so many more opportunities, and it brings return of investments as well. So this toolkit, basically, Helena, is really it's a very structured toolkit. You'll see some of the slides happening in the background to show you. So it's it guides businesses to take a 4-step approach. So they have to measure, they have to set a target, they have to deliver, and then communicate. So this is like a basic, and this is, by the way, all based on science-based evidences. It's based on best practices. And what's really important is that businesses then have a way of saying, okay, I want to be responsible. I want to be able to do this. I want to align myself with the targets set by the country. And I want to abide by these guidelines so that when new employees come into the company, they're like, okay, what are you doing to green your operations? What are you doing on your social responsibility pathways? And if they follow these guidelines, we know they're following the right ways and they're aligning with what the country has put forward. And of course, this is a set of toolkits, and of course this document is going to be a document that we're going to be updating as well in the years to come, because so many systems and so many technologies do advance as well, and we need to make sure that this document is alive. It's an agile document, and we continue also getting feedback from the private sector to say how we could improve this guideline. But what's really important is that in line with the net zero pathway that we're on now, it's really a toolkit for the businesses to align themselves, align their operations, so that they can achieve the ambitious targets that we've set for them.
Okay, fantastic. Now, you've outlined about the net zero and suggested that there are opportunities for business. Could you perhaps say a little bit more what you think some of the opportunities are, but maybe if there are any risks that companies are nervous about and how the toolkit deals with those?
So I'm sure some of you have heard of what Scope 1 is, Scope 2 is. So I try to always simplify things. So Scope 1 are your own emissions. Scope 2 are the emissions that come out of your supply chain. And of course, Scope 3 is what your product does to wherever it is. So this guideline is really all about looking at Scope 1 and 2. So scope 1 is probably the easiest to explain. It's what can you do to reduce your energy consumption? What can you do to reduce your water consumption? Maybe looking at electrifying your vehicle fleet. These are all simple examples of how this toolkit is going to help businesses.
And how would you ideally like to see the toolkit helping the net zero objectives of the government be realised?
So of course, again, this toolkit is a toolkit that's going to be updated as we move along. So I would really love to see that the private sector use this toolkit, but also sends back feedback on how we can always improve it, because there's always room for improvement. It is our second edition. The first edition was in 2018. So this is the second edition, which is now also in line with the net zero pathway. It's also come from all the kind of NDCA, for those of you who weren't here an hour ago. So these are the national dialogues for climate ambition that we're having on a monthly basis with the private sector. And the inputs that we've been receiving from them has really helped us put this toolkit together.
Fantastic. You've given us some examples, but maybe are there other examples or particular opportunities for the economy that you see in terms of the toolkit and the transition that the companies can take?
So you can see on this slide the kind of main sectors that the toolkit is looking at to support. And over here, of course, we have the 92 measures that are presented. All the details are, of course, in the toolkit itself. And what's important is we kind of want to highlight to the users that greening your operations is an opportunity. Because it will give you return of investments, because it will attract new talents to your business. It will attract new technologies into your business. It will give you credibility. We've got a lot of youth here. Whenever they go to apply for a job, they'll be asking questions such as, what are you doing for greening your operation? What are you doing for reducing your carbon emissions? So all these questions are becoming a normal thing that you have to think about. So, and because we have such a youthful community in the UAE, and we're kind of really also encouraging the SMEs to grow and flourish, we wanted to make sure they have something to look back in, to kind of do a checklist from, and make it easier for themselves. And as I said, we always, for us, what's really important to understand that this is a living document. This is a document that we will continue updating. We'll be also asking how user-friendly it is. We've gotten a lot of feedback already from the first edition, and again from the NDCAs that we've been doing. So we're really happy that in line with our announcement on the net zero pathway, we also have a toolkit which we'll be giving to businesses, or which are there to be used by the businesses to help us achieve net zero by 2050.
Thank you. Well, we've certainly seen globally that investing in renewable energy and in the green transition can increase jobs much more than investments on the fossil fuel side. I think you've emphasized that, also the value to the small business, to the youth, so many opportunities. Perhaps as a very final question, do you think that there is something that could be learned from other countries in terms of the toolkit? Would you like to see it disseminated further?
Sure. I actually think that any toolkit produced by any country should be something that's been adapted to the environment of the country. Every country has different resources, they have different landscape, different environments, so it's really important that any toolkit, it's not a one-fits-all solution, it's something that's very specific for the country, for the environment we're in. For example, just look at our, when you look at the food system side, in the UAE we are a desert climate, we are a water-scarce country, so when you think of setting up a business, when it comes to producing food, you'll be looking at very different technologies and very different inputs than you would if you were in a colder country. So it's really important that these toolkits are made for the country itself, and we also believe it should be in line with the overall net zero pathway. So everything needs to go hand in hand, it needs to complement each other. We're very lucky in the UAE that climate, food, biodiversity, environment all comes under one umbrella. So we've got all the teams working under one pathway and one mission, and this makes it easier for us. And I think this is sometimes maybe an issue in many other countries, is that you have different entities doing different things. So developing something like this becomes a bit more difficult.
Thank you. I'm really excited to hear what you've given to us today. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for UAE being a leader in the world. Thank you.